What?
From the driving car, shoot out the window?
Yeah, they don't report us. That's probably true.
It is a true lot. I'll say that again.
Is this the presentation in today, Jeff, down this way?
From the car, the window down. Yeah. You want to shoot
You're in
it?
charge.
Shoot it well.
So I'm looking right there.
Yeah, if you stand down
Oh,
here,
stand down here.
you can look at the crowd, and don't worry about the camera.
Don't worry about the camera. I worry about the camera because I want to get my good side. Do we have anybody online with us?
I'd have told you.
Okay, well, I don't have to worry about the camera. Well, we will begin. Please keep eating and enjoying your dinner, or your lunch. We're glad you're all here today. Now, I have not met this young lady, I don't think.
Sakaya Cooksey.
Miss Cooksey, we're glad you're here. Are you from Wales too, like I?
Dixon.
Well, Dixon's good.
That's close.
You know, the county executive in Dixon, the old county judge was named Billy Fields. He didn't have an S like I have, but that was a long time ago, and we're no relations. Plus, I think he went to jail. No, he didn't.
I've checked with Sakaya and
You
she's
tell
not,
those fascinating stories.
I did. Jim, I'm
she's
sorry.
not a psychiatrist. She's a Sakaya, just plain Sakaya,
It's a guy.
not a psychiatrist.
But that's not even remember her name though.
I have a hard time with that, but we're glad you're here.
K-I-Y-A.
We have a pretty big agenda today, I think, and I know we've got a good presentation because Mr. Vickstrom goes to great lengths to make sure that he is able to share and educate and be prepared. We will start today. I think Jim sent out our creed that if I were a good leader, I would have copied and made sure you had copies of them, but because I didn't, I'm not a good leader. But I do have it. So it starts this way. What is the nature of this meeting?
We are here to remember Mr.
Sherlock Holmes.
I'll help you out.
And what group is this?
We are the
National Scholars of the Three Pike. By whose authority do you come by this name?
From John James,
Our founder.
founder in 1979.
What is the three pike problem?
This is the catechism.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the 3-5 problem?
Yes.
A
A dilemma that requires
requires
the time it takes
to
to
smoke three pipes to solve.
Yes, in the Red-Headed League by Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson asked Holmes what he planned to do to solve the problem, and what was his reply? To smoke. The more bizarre
But the
thing
thing
is,
is, the
the
less mysterious
it proves to be. It is quite a three-pipe
three-pipe
problem.
That's it.
So we're convened. Thank you all for being here. Jim also put together a preview and a lead for us today that he sent out. But we'll start with show and tell because we know that y'all have brought things that we have not seen before, or at least have stories to tell we've not heard before. So if you've got something, take a few minutes and share. Anybody? All right.
You probably noticed your placemats are from the London Times, and the date is 1894. And that is not by accident. That is the date of our story. The Norwood Builder takes place in 1894. Now, if you'd like to read the placemat a little more carefully, this is magnifying, looks like a gun holster, but it's a magnifying glass. Wanda bought this week from London.
Wow.
So please enjoy a London magnifying glass and welcome to browse through the
From Amazon.
keep things moving. Here's a second magnifying glass. So please enjoy your London Times.
Thank you.
It's got a story about the opening of the London Tower Bridge and the newspaper excerpt there.
Oh, that's on this story.
Question.
Yes,
Is this what they call the agonies?
No, the agonies, and we have a little bit of report of one. The agonies would be like the personal ads. Where-
Oh, okay.
Now, there could be some on that page. I'm not sure.
That's why I thought I saw some.
Oh, then it very well could, that's what the agonies would be.
Interestingly, that was the very front page of the London Times. Filled up with little classified ads on page
I
one.
guess it's different.
Yeah.
Slow day, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh,
You sure like carry this around with it?
you're right.
and secondly,
I believe that story.
in the Norwood Builder,
Actual.
in the Norwood Builder, it opens up with Holmes complaining to Watson, there's no more crime in the great city of London anymore since Moriarty is gone. So reminded, there's a new book that's published, I'll send it around. It was really a mastermind of crime in a great city, a malignant brain who was responsible or connected to all the petty crimes, employing pickpockets, bank robbers, and corrupt lawmen. And so I'll send this little book review around.
Great.
It's kind of interesting. And last but not least, Jim Hawkins just returned this book of mine. This is the origins, about the origins of the London detective agencies, the police force, the Bow Street Runners. And this is a fictional account by a character named Richmond, but a fun collection of old English stories set about 1827. That's it for me.
Thank you, Tom.
Plenty.
Others with anything to show or to share?
I've got some slides. I wanted to share with you the 50th anniversary of the Sherlock Holmes collection that Bill and I went to. Marina was there. So, Jen, can you bring up the folder on the thumb drive?
What do you want from the folders? A file in particular, or
What?
is there a certain file?
No, we're just gonna go through them all, just the pictures on in the folder. Steve Mason. Hello, Steve. Just start at the bottom. Okay, here's a few slides from our trip to Minneapolis. Where'd you see that? No, that's not in the folder. I just need the folder.
$50th?
Yes, this one.
That's what you want.
Just start there. Here we go. Here's the opening. So that's Susan and me on the left in front. And then that is Dick Slam opening the meeting. And this was at the Anderson L. Library. I'm sorry, Elmer L. Anderson Library in Minneapolis. This is the newer library in which they moved in all the Sherlock collections. So it is still the largest collection of Sherlock Holmes things in the world. Edith Miser's plays are there, and Frederick Gore Steele's drawings and all his things are there. Of course, John Shaw's 12,000 books and 5,000 whatever's, and everything else is there. And then there are 4 Beaton Christmas annuals. Dr. Hedge was in his collection, started back in the 70s. So this is the 50th anniversary. Okay, go ahead, next slide now, whatever. I'll be speaking to the Tourist Science Society in Chicago at the end of September, sharing about John Shaw and some of the things he did in Chicago. Next. There I am. I think somebody said something about Shaw and I didn't like it, so.
Hey, thanks.
Do what? I didn't know I looked that bad, but anyway, there you go. Next, please, quickly. This was the opening, and Will Walsh took this picture. I thought it was just great. This is a video of Shaw giving a tour at his home. And I'm over here. Now that backdrop, that is not smoke.
I thought
It's a
you were-
backdrop for the drama that was held on Saturday morning. And it looks just like smoke, but I like this picture. I'll be using that a lot. Next, please. Oh, no. Now, if you look carefully, this is Marino, our friend Marino. And as it always happens, he has already put me to sleep. Can you see I'm snoozing over there?
He looks so entertained.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Marino and I had a good time. Vicky did not come. But they did take Susan with me on this trip. This is the first big Sherlockian thing she's ever been to. Next, please.
Got a Florida suntan there.
Yeah.
Since he's a member in absentia, can we rename him to Moriarty or something?
Boy, it looks like that.
He just looks like. a
He
Moriarty.
does, doesn't he? Yeah.
We can name him anything we want.
Does anybody know who the man on the left is? Peter Blau. Peter Blau, yes, sir. He's the reigning Sherlockian now, I guess these days. Shaw's gone. And somebody else. Yeah, that's right. He's been that since he was a kid. But, Peter is, very bright and he remembers everything about the, Sherlock Holmes folks and the deal. So there we were talking about what, I don't know, but anyway, that's a nice.
Did he mention he still doesn't like me?
He loves you, Billy.
No,
told
he
me that.
doesn't.
said,
No, he
"Billy,
doesn't."
To kiss Billy on the
I
lips.
bet
for me,
he
if you
did.
will. But I'll try not to do that.
Wow.
Okay, go one more down, okay? Yeah, now,
Yes.
this is a slide, is a stained glass window at St. Thomas University in St. Paul. And we had to run over there during one of the breaks because this is the cover of the bibliography of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And Ron Duvall put that on the cover of his book. Here we go back up. And so Rudy Altergott and I went over there with Phil Burgum during one of the breaks and took these pictures. There's an entire lineup of literary characters in this. And it's really fascinating, but I just thought that window was so pretty, and I never had been over there yet. I've seen it before, but I just wanted to see it. I don't know if there's anything left in there or not.
Nope, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. That's my field. Next.
Okay, any other show or tag? Dean, anything coming up?
Oh, well, I think I've already mentioned this, there's a new version of Young Sherlock Holmes that's in the works
Yeah,
as a series, mini-series, but I
Okay.
don't really have any information about it.
thank you. Now BoucherCon is coming. There's several, I know, registered that are going here in toward the end of the month.
Can I do my news? We'll do the news.
Let's go to news. That's where we are.
All right, Billy Fields just had tooth extracted this week and still
Solid
bleeding,
fault.
so remember him.
I'm falling apart.
And then next, September the 30th, he's having his knee replaced. So keep him in your thoughts.
I'm running out of parts.
The adventure of the missing
I'm
bones.
telling you.
I put out an all points bulletin last week about, we didn't have a presenter for September, and Kathy has volunteered, so she's gonna be bringing up
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The Adventure of the Retired Color Man. Does anybody know what a color man is? There you go, perfect, yeah, it works with paints and colors and so.
I know this time I thought he worked with horses.
I know we've seen that, but it didn't make any sense to me.
Say hi to Sandy.
Was Sandy cozen in? Sandy, hello?
Looks like yellow's on.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, now,
Dave,
in
I
connection.
see you there.
Yep. We're here.
Shut her down. Now, in connection with the BoucherCon, we really want to get a good group out for the party that Les Klinger and Laurie King are throwing. It's on the it's the 29th, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. You do not have to go to BoucherCon to come to this. You just drive to Opry Mills and go to TGI Friday. And if you're interested, let us know. It's free parking. You just go in and order anything or nothing. but come meet these folks and, we're trying to, some of our Sherlockians will be out there. We want to say hello to them. That's a week from today. Yeah. This is what's out.
2 weeks.
Yeah, the 29th. Yeah, we have a private area for us.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and besides Klinger and, what's it, Lindsay Fay, who else?
Cindy Fay,
And,
Laurie King,
okay, and, Laurie King.
Laurie King, yeah, Beekeeper's Apprentice. This is 30 years for her, big book on Beekeeper's Apprentice. I don't really know who else is coming. Les is keeping the list. But, I've seen some names that you would want to be there and, So if you want Les to sign something, bring the book, okay? It'll be all right.
Is Curtis coming? I want to see Curtis.
Oh, I don't know, he may be. Now, Les Klinger's the guy who wrote the annotated Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
and took on the Doyle estate and got it to where you could write about any Sherlock Holmes story and not have to pay them anything.
Okay. We have another guest, Erica.
Oh, right, Erica, good. Hey, she's one of our newer Sherlockians. She gave a toast at the event and asked me to sign something for her. I was amazed. I tell you, it was just great. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Can you,
Thank you for having me.
you've just been to London, haven't you?
I'm sorry?
You've just been to London?
Yes. Yep. I was visiting some friends in Southampton and I got to go over to Portsmouth. So I got to see all types of Doyle related things. It was very, very wonderful.
Oh, that's great. I saw your post. It was really, really good. Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. I guess that's all for me.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other news anybody needs to share?
Hey, Benny.
Yes, sir.
Did you put the tooth under your pillow and what did you get?
I didn't get anything. The tooth fairy can't find me on the Cumberland Plateau. It's not right because it was a back tooth, so it had 3 parts to it, and I thought I was getting 3. I didn't get nothing. But that's all right. It won't be the first time the tooth fairy has missed me.
There's a rule in Wyoming, there's only one ferry on the mountain at once, and Billy was already there.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Well, let me tell you something. In 1957,
Yes, sir.
I went to a dentist and had all 4 of my wisdom teeth chopped out with a hatchet. And I got on the bus and went home, went to sleep and woke up in terrible pain. That's the whole story.
You know, I'd say a hatchet tooth removal would be something that would, that probably would let me wake up several hours later in pain. What will not be a pain is the presentation we're about to have.
Segue.
As you know, Tom Vickstrom has been a member with us for several years. And he has certainly become a vital part of our group for lots of reasons. In fact, the Vickstrom family is vital to us, and we're glad you're here. So I could go on and talk about your credentials and the fact that you were the most important person at the most important hotel in the most important city in America, at the Hermitage Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. I can say that, but I'm not. What I am going to say is, Tom, we're so glad you're here, and we look so forward to hearing about the Norwood builder.
Thank you, Dylan.
So, wait, just a minute, Tom, do we know Micah cover? Jim,
Sorry?
Micah cover,
Micah cover.
if you look up at the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when it's finished.
Hey, Micah, all right.
Yeah,
We're
you
good.
good. Great.
We've come to learn that John here is a canonical name of Norwood builder. John, thank you for being here especially.
Well,
And,
couldn't miss this one.
yeah, and I'd like to thank Tom Feller for inviting me to my very first Sherlock meeting years ago. That was very kind of you, Tom. Thank you. So the adventure of the Norwood builder is I'm reading here, a short story published in Collier's magazine in 1903 and in the Strand magazine that year as well in the UK. This is the 29th, or depending which list you read, either 30th or 29th Sherlock Holmes story, and it's in the Return of Sherlock Holmes collection. plot summary, and I'm quoting from the website. One morning, as Holmes is complaining to Watson, who had moved back into Baker Street a few months ago, Holmes complaining about the lack of interesting criminal cases since the death of Moriarty. A panic-stricken young lawyer named John McFarland bursts into the room, certain that he is about to be arrested for the murder of Jonas Oldacre. Kind of a cartoonish name, I think, Oldacre. He was a builder in Lower Norwood. Oldacre is a wealthy 52-year-old bachelor. McFarland had not even met until the day before, when he came to his law office in downtown London to announce that he wished him to be heir to a considerable bequest. Having heard high praise of the young lawyer, Oldacre invites McFarland back to his house that night to seal the deal, review some papers, etc. The next day, Oldacre is missing, and burned remains are found in a fire in a woodpile behind his house. Signs of a struggle, scattered papers, and McFarland's walking stick are found in his home, all leading to evidence. This gets published in the paper even. Lestrade, who arrived at 221 Baker Street the next morning, arrests the young man, but Holmes, who noticed Oldacre's will seems to have been written carelessly on a train, states that he is heading to Blackheath, where McFarland's parents are living. He learns that Oldacre and McFarland's mother were once engaged years before, but she broke it off. Continuing to Norwood, he examines the builder's house, but found nothing that could exonerate the lawyer. He did, however, find a curious little point. Oldacre's papers lately had included several checks for substantial amounts written to a Mr. Cornelius. The next day, Holmes and Watson head back to Norwood after they receive a telegram from Lestrade, who shows them new evidence, a bloody thumbprint on the wall. Holmes, who had examined the wall the day before and was certain the print had not been there then, understands then that Oldacre is still in his house, hiding, and he starts a fire to smoke him out. Oldacre claims it had all been a practical joke, but Holmes explains to Lestrade he acted out of revenge towards the woman who had rejected him and had intended to start a new life under the name of Cornelius. So, in trying to figure out how to present this, it's a bit like the parable of the six Indian men with the blind man with the elephant. You know, trying to come up to the elephant and saying it's a big wall. No, it's a rope, etc. But there's quite a few interesting rabbit trails or features also to run down in the story. Doyle did a masterful job putting it together. I think he put his best effort. Was it 1903? He had taken about a 10-year break, I think, in writing the Sherlock Holmes stories, and he came back and put renewed fresh energy into it. And he treats us to quite a few of the classic, beloved features of Sherlock Holmes in this story. But I've got a bit of trivia and fun facts. Then we have a folder for each of us, and a take-home folder, optionally, if you want to take it home and enjoy it at your leisure. But the Adventure of the Norwood Builder is set in 1894, published in 1903. The setting is 1894. John Hector McFarland, the lawyer, the villain, Jonas Oldacre. The story of Oldacre, a mean-spirited villain, he's a lumberman by profession, has some plausibility in the story throughout. He may have found the ways and means to build a secret room in his house. He also has the small timber yard in back of his house, likely the scrap lumber there to start the fire, where he faked his death. And lastly, the location of the home is named Deep Dean House, In Old English origins, the word dean refers to the narrow, steep wooded valleys that contains a stream. And there's also alternate spelling, D-E-A-N, so we have a,
Sounds familiar.
we have our own deep dean here with us.
All Dean said it.
But, as mentioned, he's a mean old man. McFarland's mother, Holmes finds out, was once engaged to Old Acre earlier, but never wanted anything to do with him once she found out what a nasty character he was. He had once let a cat loose in a bird sanctuary.
Ooh, all right.
Wow. Watch out, look at that.
That's
So,
stuff at the family.
The story location in Norwood, Arthur Conan Doyle actually lived in Norwood for a time and included some local details in the story. For example, the lawyer McFarland spends the night at the Amesley Arms, and that's really a pub that did exist. Norwood is also a location featured in the book, The Story, The Sign of the Four, one of the earliest stories. At the start of the Norwood Builder, they mentioned two unrecorded cases that Holmes investigated around the same time as this story. The case of the papers of ex-President Murillo, which Conan Doyle later wrote as The Adventure of Wisteria Lodge. And second one, the shocking affair of the Dutch steamship Friesland, which has loosely inspired a film in later years, but was never written up by Conan Doyle. The writing of the will that Oldacre hurriedly wrote on a train on his way from Norwood to London to visit a lawyer. Upon examining the handwriting, Holmes reckons it was written in a very haphazard fashion, as if the writer really didn't care what he was writing. The alteration between the legible handwriting and the incomprehensible squiggles suggests to Holmes that the will was written hurriedly on a train, and the legible writing represents stops at stations along the route. Fingerprints are featured in the story. One of the few Holmes stories in which fingerprints provides a good clue as to the nature of the problem is a wax thumbprint reproduction. The idea devised and bought from writer Bertram Fletcher Robinson, who also apparently helped with the plot of Hound of the Baskervilles, 1901. So Doyle evidently drew on, the prevailing good ideas and information that was out there at the time. I found it handy to be able to print from a PDF version of the entire canon to do keyword search and also to print off instead of carrying the whole book around. Just carry a dozen pages.
Did that come off the website? I had a link to that.
It did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a handy way to read it, great big print.
it is.
Yeah.
If anybody would like this, actually, it's a spare. So,
Yeah.
so we'll go ahead and handouts. I think we have folders I'll distribute, and please try not to read ahead if you can avoid it.
Oh, cool.
So these are yours. I don't want them back.
Do not return them.
Yeah.
Right here.
I'll kick these.
I moved over there.
Got it.
Four you got?
Got it?
Here's four.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Dylan.
I got this already.
He's got-
John?
Sir?
You? Really?
Yes, thank you, sir.
He's in the hangar. Don't read ahead.
Don't read it, okay, I'll stop. I went straight to the read ahead.
Please enjoy the cover to begin with. You notice the swirling smoke on the cover. That's
Afraid you get some back anyway. Sure.
That's cool.
we have the at the end of the story, we have a little campfire built in
Oh,
Old Acre homes.
I can't hear it.
What was that, Tom?
It's very nice.
I'll wait till things settle down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the,
Thank
anyway,
you,
the cover of the folder has got the swirling smoke. If you notice and that, represents the little campfire that was built in Old Acres home at the end of the story. That scared him out of his secret room in hiding. So, let's flip open one of the what I call the beloved old chestnut in the Norwood builder is at the beginning of the story, Holmes immediately identifies the lawyer Hector McFarland. Says, you mentioned your name as if I should recognize it, but I assure you that beyond the obvious facts that you were a bachelor, a solicitor, a Freemason, and an asthmatic, I know nothing whatever about you. And below that in the image is the original excerpt of the original manuscript in Conan Doyle's own handwriting, he wrote that out.
I see them.
Kind of interesting, yeah, on lined paper.
I still can't write that one.
It shows what a brilliant mind he could just, with minimal editing and correction, just.
And that's the way most of his manuscripts look.
Yeah, found this.
He wrote.
Need to see how he inserts things.
Yeah. He wasn't writing scriptures.
So,
May I just
When-
comment that this is no longer possible since everyone works now with Word docs. There's no way to have a record of the changes and revisions.
so this,
So it's a sad state.
incidentally, the term old chestnut, if you'd like, you might like to look that up at home, it's got some interesting origins in our vocabulary. But when and how did this Sherlockian trait of instantaneous observation first come about? Well, it happens in the beginning of the canon when Holmes met Watson in the medical school. He says, upon meeting Watson, "How are you? You have been in Afghanistan, I perceive," which is astounding to Watson. Then shortly after the study of Scarlet story, Holmes is at 221B, picks up a magazine and reads an article, and he defines it as twaddle. The points made in the article, only to learn that Holmes himself was the author of the article. And Holmes sets him straight. He looks out the window, sees a man walking along the street, and correctly shows that he states that he is a sergeant of Marines. The man then sent to 221B and proves to be absolutely correct. So identified by a tattoo and his manner of walking, his clothing, and so forth. But anyway, there's an image here on the back of the sitting room, 221B Baker Street, in which it is said that Holmes would have visitors sit in a chair closest to the window, that the daylight could come in and help him with his observations, with the best possible light shining on his visitor. So that is that one. Now, the fun thing in this story is Detective Lestrade, and some people say Lestrade, potato, but we're calling him Lestrade here. Quoted, "It was a clang of the bell, followed instantly by heavy steps upon the stair. A moment later, our old friend Lestrade appeared in the doorway. Over his shoulder, I caught a glimpse of one or two uniformed policemen outside. 'Mr. John Hector McFarland,' said Lestrade. Our unfortunate client rose with a ghastly face. 'I arrest you for the willful murder of Mr. Jonas Oldacre of Lower Norwood.'" So it goes from there. Holmes persuades Lestrade to have a little time, in a little bit of time to try to solve the case. is granted that by Lestrade and, so McFarland's not actually in jail as the story ends, I don't believe. But, the next morning, a telegram arrives, Holmes reads it. Says, this is Lestrade's little cock-a-doodle-doo of victory. So the funny thing, Lestrade always jumping to a conclusion and crowing about his deductive reasoning and crime solving. Usually then Holmes, meanwhile, figures out the facts and helps him solve the case. So anyway, we continue on. I wondered, it seemed like there was a high degree of Lestrade in this particular story. And it's true, if you go to the next page, there's a bar chart here put together. Little statistical summary at the time, the frequency of occurrences of Lestrade in the canon. And story by story, Lestrade actually turns up in well over a dozen stories. And Adventure of the Norwood Builder has the most instances of the name, of the use of the name 52 Lestrade. So he's all through the story.
Are these in canonical order, the way they're shown here?
Yes, they are.
So it gives you a good idea of how they used him throughout this.
Yes. That's when I was referring to a beloved old chestnut. As he came back into the later stories, he continued to use some of the favorite characters and so forth. But so the third page here is some quotes out of these different stories. And if anybody would like to read any, it'll be fun. In Study in Scarlet, the first one, quote, Lestrade, lean and ferret-like as ever, was standing in the doorway.
Hey, Tom,
Yes.
I have a toast to Lestrade that I wrote one time. Should I throw
Sure,
this in here?
sure.
It's
go
pretty
ahead.
short.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Lestrade, with his panties in a wad. Over who will get the credit when he doesn't even get it for a crime that Sherlock Holmes already solved in record time. From ashes on the floor or a hound upon the moor, all those little bits and pieces all add up to form Holmes' thesis of a crime that poor Lestrade had never a clue. Let us not be so unkind to Lestrade, who in his time led the men of Scotland Yard to rid London of the crime of thinking Holmes some kind of god. This all-inept inspector, this officious imperfecter of constabulary zeal and faulty ways, only seeks to have his name cleared of temporary blame for the crimes that Sherlock Holmes has never solved.
Very good.
That's what's true.
Sound like Gilbert and Sullivan.
Put that to music. That would be-
Yeah.
Do we have any volunteers to read any little quotes of Lestrade here?
Nobody's gonna do an English accent.
Blimey, no. When Gregson or Lestrade or Athelney Jones are out of their depths, which, by the way, is their normal state, the matter is laid before me.
Lestrade, being rather puzzled, has referred the case to me.
Lestrade, I congratulate you. With your usual happy mixture of cunning and audacity, you have gotten.
It's Lestrade's little cock-a-doodle-doo of victory.
Here it is.
Lestrade held information in his hands, the value of which he himself did not know.
But lying over in the corner of the sitting room is Lestrade.
Oh, God.
Okay.
There may be an occasional want of imaginative intuition down there at Scotland Yard,
but they lead the world in thoroughness and method.
Lestrade chuckled with delight at having puzzled the famous detective. Anyway, I think we get the picture, common theme throughout the canon with Lestrade.
Yeah, right.
But he, I'm sure, deeply appreciates Sherlock Holmes. The next insert in our notebook is the about trains. We have what happened in the writing of the will, the legibility of the handwriting. Holmes immediately determines that it was due to running over points. And so then, you know, I had asked Bill Mason, what are points in the canon? He knew, he looked it up. It's the little, if you go to page 2, you'll see a picture of points. What the relevant points truly are. And that's where different tracks converge or separate.
We were a big part of the adventure last month of the submarine, because he was
Yes,
right at the points.
exactly.
Good point.
It was.
Thank you.
I'm glad you pointed that out. So, in fact, in the Bruce Partington story, it was around a curve with points that caused the body on the roof and
That's what you're talking about.
the passenger
So
started to drop
it's
off.
not so much a bump as a swerve that makes it. affects
So
the-
it would be,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah. So that's our railroad points, caused Holmes at the very beginning to suspect that the will was kind of written in a fraudulent or haphazard manner.
That keeps us on track. Thank you.
Picture on the front is an actual English, a London railroad car. Captain was the opening of a certain rail line. And approximately the date of our story.
Right.
And it had a slightly curved roof, you see that? Easier for bodies to fall off. Now, next is the, this will help if you want to build your very own secret room at home. This is actual advertisement from a hinge, a specialty hinge manufacturer. Shows how you can use invisible hinges. In either a large bookcase, a medium bookcase, or a small bookcase. You might want your children to have a secret room. You use the small
Lock them in
bookcase.
there.
Well, with the Anne Frank family, you know, the secret annex, it was a very large bookcase that hid the door.
Well, okay. So of course, we've all seen Mel Brooks' Frankenstein,
Okay.
the classic scene there with the bookcase.
Put
With the candle back.
I knew somebody had to do it.
Very slowly. So, anyway, the clever Jonas Oldacre built his own secret. He either built it or had somebody built a secret room in his house. Holmes had, when he first inspected the house, walked the lower level, and then he determined that later walking the upper level was not the same distance. He then figured there must be some reason, probably a secret panel or a secret room. So he knew that when he decided to cleverly smoke out Oldacre, he had constables come in to the house and light a small fire with straw on the floor. Watson was there with a bucket of water to douse out the fire, but he had them all shout out, "Fire, fire!" And Oldacre, in hiding, probably smelled the smoke, and he rushed out to be apprehended.
That's a ploy he used in the sign of the form. No, Irina Adler,
Oh,
Scandal.
Scandal. Yeah.
yeah. And Scandal in Bohemia. You know, it's a fire, you know, fired off the thing, fire, fire, and she came rushing to get the picture that he was looking for.
That's right.
It's an old boy.
So
He's
here's
your
your,
liquor for.
here's your secret hinge supplier. We enjoy that.
I like it.
They look very high quality too. So, one of the other key features is the bloody thumbprint, if you go to your next handout. And if you go to the back page, you'll see that when Collier's published the story, they took artistic liberties and put in the entire handprint.
They had a bigger budget.
On the wall, and but in the story, it was just a thumbprint. It was Oldacre obtained it by having the lawyer seal a wax seal on a document when they were completing the will. He had obtained his thumbprint probably for this very reason. But then he pricked his finger, got a little blood. Oldacre's own finger, when he was in hiding, the house was empty, pricked his finger, put it on the wax seal, applied a wax seal against the wall. And that was part of the frame up of the lawyer, McFarland.
I was given a Baker Street Journal article by Andrew Malik at University of Minnesota. And I'll share it with you when you're done, but it's about Frederick Dorr Steele talking about that handprint, you know. Someone asked him about it and he told him the story about how it came up, so I'll share that with you when we're done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right,
It's a great cover, isn't it? Wow.
so in this little handout are some of the illustrations, Paget illustrations that were published with the story, Norwood Builder. So
I couldn't help but notice that in the first one that showed us, Holmes did not wear a hat. But by the time he found the finger thumbprint, he found a hat there.
how about that?
Doesn't let you know.
It's really
So
tinted.
the history of fingerprinting is quite fascinating. Anyway, we'll look at history of fingerprinting is indicated Scotland Yard started using it in 1884. That's on page 3 of the handout here. They installed the automatic fingerprint recognition system. That's pretty cool, well before computerization. But they were on the right track. But if we go back to page 2, this one, we'll look at some of the characteristics of fingerprints. And it is fascinating that even identical twins do not have identical fingerprints. Every human being on this planet has different fingerprints in some way.
That's pretty amazing.
So it is. So, and then ears also are distinctive.
Yeah.
Wouldn't think about it. They didn't put the ear on the wall, but
Good thing, good thing.
Hey,
maybe the next rewrites.
jury not of.
Pastiche will have it. So there was the whirl type of fingerprint, the composite, the loop, and the arch. In our drink coasters today, we have, you probably see something. Anybody have a arch or a whirl?
Oh, they're all different.
The loop? And not only are the patterns, the swirls and loops, but also what they call the Galton details. Kind of like the connectors on the railroad lines we looked at a minute ago. The where the tracks separate, but forks and islands and so forth. So if you're supposed to get a good print, you can really get a puzzle. Even if you only have a partial print, if the detective lifts a partial set of prints, they probably have enough detail there. They can do a good matchup.
In my old job, when I was responsible for regulating taxi cab drivers and all those folks, we had to have everybody fingerprint. And so it was an amazing thing to see those records come back. And I just checked, so I mean, in the national system, the NCIC, the National Crime Identification Center, I think, is they have 70 million criminals or people have been charged. That was inappropriate. People have been charged. But then there's another 30 million just civilians that have been fingerprinted for whatever reason.
Well, I had to give fingerprints when I got my TSA
Yeah.
certification years ago.
Did they use was it the old fashioned black ink or did
No,
they use
they
the?
did it on a screen.
Yeah. Yeah, now they do 10 prints as they call it, where you just can put your hand down and read it all, which
Yeah.
is, or do a thumb or a finger or whatever. So it's an amazing thing.
It is amazing. And there's toe prints too, apparently.
Oh, they don't have my toe print.
So,
All night.
the next,
Thank you. You left.
the next handout.
I
It's
can always.
apparently, Oklahoma City has a wonderful national memorial museum and forensic exhibits, and this next handout comes from really well put together. Instructional diagrams of how it's done. So this, I was thinking you might enjoy taking home.
Yeah.
And you maybe try taking your fingerprints at home if you'd like. We wanted to offer as a optional experiment. We brought in materials here where we can take our own fingerprints today. Just not all 10, but just a thumb or a finger. Would like to try it. And it requires two people, a little teamwork. But, and furthermore, we have the option, you can either have a bloody thumbprint, right in red ink, bloody thumbprint, please not on the wall of Corky's, but on white paper here, or anybody's squeamish about the red ink, we brought in cocoa powder. Apparently the in elementary school or in Cub Scouts. And, they say you can put your thumb on your forehead and get slight oil.
Like Ash Wednesday. So.
Yeah.
Anybody who'd like to try it, or actually laugh at your neighbor while they try it.
I think Hawkins is the most notorious. You can submit it and see if any criminal records came back.
And part of the problem, bells will probably go off when we do that.
What we have,
Where do I put my thumb right here?
you don't need to, you can.
Oh, okay.
So the thing with the ink pad, you don't push it down too much. You'll get a big job like a plum, when you do your fingerprint.
Yeah,
You just lightly roll it, and then we're gonna have a piece of tape, scotch tape. You put your finger on the scotch tape, slightly roll it without moving it, but just roll it, and without pressing too hard.
Okay.
Just roll
Well,
it.
Jim, for the first one, just put your thumb on it and then put it on your forehead. Do that to start with, and then we'll do the tape.
That's a pretty good deal. I think
We'll take the tape on, we'll do the tape with your forehead.
Anything like that?
Yeah, that's it.
So
Oh, he really did. That's part of it. You good? You now?
that's Indian symbol.
Yeah, you do.
That's, he forgot to tell you, that's, indelible.
Yeah. Please send that to Jim. I think he can. Great. She just.
Yes.
rolling my thumb.
You don't need to roll it multiple times, but I think you've got a
Pretty good plan.
first class.
Okay.
And, should or should not we be sending this to Scotland Yard?
No.
But it should be preserved, so.
Police force anyway.
want that preserved in your folder?
Absolutely.
Your folder is-
Oh,
Let's put it on that.
Let's put it on in your folder.
Okay.
so now. you put it-
Just kind of slide it on.
Put it right here.
Not that heavy.
Oh, that's it.
Just take some back.
Before you do that, hold it up to the camera so they see what you're doing.
Turns out like you're being booked. There we go, there's your
Is
friend.
that good?
Good.
Just kind of lightly do it down.
Move it a little with the lights behind it.
Yeah,
Put
that's
them
fine.
on the back of your coat.
Jim, there's no telling where that thumbprint it has showed up. Except for your front. Yeah, Jim, you got a big old print on your nose. Now we know what you do.
Right? I've got some, you have to take that off with.
Yes, we got some ammonia, Jim, don't worry about it.
Hand sanitizer.
And-
And that works.
Pretty good.
Okay.
And
I don't have any other little things.
let me look back here and see what we're doing.
Am I supposed to be right on here?
Yeah.
I'm curious how it goes just on the
Ain't
paper.
that something? So we.
Oh,
nice. Gosh, Tom, that's great.
Good. There you go.
Well done, Tom.
So
Piece
keep
of
in mind that you're totally unique in doing this.
paper.
Your fingerprint is
You need one of these or?
unique in the entire
Yeah.
universe.
Sure.
I didn't have one, yeah.
I didn't have one in mind either.
No, Tom,
I'm
you
gonna
have
pull up
any extra
the
paper?
Frederick
over
George
yours?
seal,
Paper,
PowerPoint.
just the,
on the
No,
thumb.
I didn't use these. I didn't even bring
the
something.
hit, no, the
The one you
handout,
sent me or
the forensic.
Yes.
Oh, the.
Okay,
forensic handout is
these
got
little
like-
Oh,
boxes
no, no,
here
it's on the,
were
These
intended
are
to,
little boxes and then-
put your paw prints here on this, these little squares.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's fine. That's great.
Okay, well, we got. Oh, I'm passing it down. Where do you have on? Oh, where was the debate cell?
This one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pass it to the other side.
Okay.
You can do it.
The taker, we have the Scotch tapes too.
Yeah, I've got. You don't need to now. Take it.
We brought up-
Here, I got some down.
Here we go.
Get it.
Oh, let me do one, go ahead and put it on.
David?
Yeah.
Kind of fingerprint on there?
Start it off. Sometimes you'll have to forward it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll go by itself. Give it just a second, see if something happens.
Can I just put it on?
I think it works better.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's done yet.
I'll go to you.
Yeah, sorry, put it on to that.
That's it.
Right.
Want to research it.
All
Can
right.
you stick this somewhere on one of the pages?
I'm all ready.
You can actually do it on the actual cell.
Whoa, that's good.
Oh, yeah, it's official. Fingerprinted me at the post office. I think I'm a mass murderer or not.
That's great.
Ah, thank you, Tom.
Are you,
Oh, wait a minute.
Tom?
Without the tape.
Tom?
We played around with everything. And
Tom? You have more for your presentation, right?
It's already.
This was the end.
Oh, is that it?
Was the end.
Okay, I'm gonna run my stuff on door steel.
Yes.
Tom, thank you. Okay, folks, we got just a little bit more.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I did.
I did,
Yeah, okay. Can you run it from the beginning?
Why do I need this?
And when we get to the Norwood Builder slide, stop. And I've got something to add to that. Okay, if you'd watch the screen, please. We have just a little presentation on Frederick Dorr Steele. He is so important in American Sherlockian realms because he took over from Sidney Paget in this country and illustrated all of the we did something in the way.
They don't see.
Okay, here we go. The other famous illustrator is Frederick Dorr Steele. And as I mentioned, all of his materials, the whole family, the Steele family gave all of his materials to the University of Minnesota. And they are putting together the Frederick Dorr Steele Memorial website and publications. Bert Wolder, who is with Scott Monty in I Hear Sherlock Everywhere, is really one of the great scholars on Dorr Steele. The other is, you don't know him, is Andrew Malik, who was at the University of Minnesota when Shaw's Materials came to there. And then he became a librarian for a law firm. But he was back this week, and he has a publication on Dorr Steele about the Metropolitan Magazine, which is, Steele was not just a Sherlockian illustrator. He did a lot of different things. A lot of the Broadway people of that day, he illustrated them. We'll go ahead and go. The Collier's Weekly Magazine was the first publication in the United States to release the series, The Return of Sherlock Holmes. That's what we're talking about today. Containing 13 short stories over the course of the year 1905 or 1904. And each story was released a few days after the Strand magazine published the story. So this is where we get this story for today. The one that Tom has just taken us through. Go ahead. But that's Dorr Steele. And this piece, Andrew Malik produced back when they had an exhibit on the memorial collection of Frederick Dorr Steele, not back in 1987. Go ahead. And of course, you know, these famous Collier's magazine covers, which Dave Price has, I guess, all of them, right? You know,
All but one.
all but one. Wow, it's amazing. So this is our story today, the Norwood Builder, October 31, 1903, and it came out in 1904. But there's that red handprint, and we're gonna stop right here. And Malik sent me this. This is by Frederick Dorr Steele, My First Meeting with Sherlock Holmes. It's in the Baker Street Journal, 1949. It was after his death because it was reprinted, but Dorr Steele died in July of 44. And I was born in 44, but that day was a
Reincarnation.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
That's the year I graduated from college.
Really, you graduated in 44? Okay, here's the letter, it's pretty interesting. The letter which accounts for this first meeting was addressed to Allen Robertson of the 6 Napoleons of Baltimore in response to an inquiry Mr. Robinson had made as to the handprint on the wall in the likeness Mr. Steele had done of the master for Collier's cover, October 31, 1903. The historical data provided are important, and the journal welcomes the opportunity to reproduce this letter from a man who meant so much to Sherlock Holmes. Dear Mr. Robertson, this is Dorr Steele talking. I'll try to answer your question, though I fear the solution is a commonplace one, not to say elementary. I am hampered by the fact that the only Sherlock book I own is the 1-volume complete edition. So I don't know what you mean by the sketch of 6 clues in your copy of The Return. I can guess, however, that the publisher may have cooked up a display ad and used the handprint as one of the clues. My handprint was drawn in the background of the Collier's cover, October 31, 03, accompanying the adventure of the Norwood Builder, which was number 2 in the Return series. The print had nothing to do with McFarlane's thumb or with that story, or any other as I remember it. I put it in merely as a suggestion of what might be seen on the walls of the Baker Street rooms. So, as a Sherlockian, you may be interested in the fact that this drawing was sent down to Collier's as a rough sketch from Deerfield, Mass, after I had made it before breakfast to catch the morning mail. After a few days, they wrote me that they were reproducing the sketch as it was, since they thought I couldn't do better. if I worked a month on it. This was the first instance in which I used a Gillette photo. The first cover, the one for the Adventure of the Empty House, was the exit Moriarty reproduced in the program. Also in the program, by the way, was a transcription of that Christmas card by Barton in which he reversed the design and put the cap and beard on. A drawing similar to number 2 cover was also made for the play ads and programs. I don't know why the McClure Phillips Company got that newspaper cartoonist Macaulay to make new illustrations for the book. Possibly they have disagreed with Colliers about payment for the use of my drawings. I never heard about that. And it goes on, but that was, I thought it was pretty interesting to have a note from the artist about the handprint, you know, he said, it really wasn't supposed to be in there. And here's from the Wall Street Journal. Sherlock Holmes, reincarnated, walked down a busy street accompanied by his ever-faithful companion, Dr. Watson. Well, remarked the great detective, I'm glad to observe that at least one of these modern girls has come to her senses. And she must be very pretty, too. What girl? Asked Watson. The one in the short skirt who's walking behind us, replied Holmes. Marvelous, enthused Watson after he had corroborated the statement by a glance behind. How in the world did you ever know without turning your head? Elementary, my dear Watson, elementary. The great detective replied, I merely observed the expression of delight on the faces of the gentlemen who are walking toward us. Wall Street Journal. Okay, kids, that is it. So just be aware of Andrew Malik and Bert Wolder. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, because they are Dover Steel really great scholars. You'll see their names here. Okay, thanks.
Are there any plans to bring out a book of Dover Steel's art? That's what I would like. So a collection, you know, including.
Yeah,
the other
like the
stuff.
painted drawings, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be done. I'm pretty sure that'll be done. I don't know if it's in the works, but I mean, we have all this stuff at the university now, so
Right, so
they can certainly come up
they
with.
have sources for it. Good.
Yeah.
And speaking of scholars,
Yes?
Tom Vickstrom, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Would you like to get that out?
Are we not gonna have any discussion?
Is it open for it?
I just want to make sure I think.
Okay.
So
Now,
imagine
you're ready for
that.
discussion though.
I am.
There's discussion back here.
What you got?
I just have a groaner about this. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was in The Barbarian, and then I came up with an alternative title for this story. The Adventure of the Norwood Bodybuilder by Sir Arthur Conan the Barbarian.
Very good, very good.
That's a great line. Yes.
There's just a few things that I thought I might bring up about the story. There are at least 2 complaints about details of the story, and I'll follow the third one. One, the ashes, the remains that they talk about. Holmes dismisses them, they could be a dog or a rabbit. You'd think anyone
Get Sandy
in
to
that
do her
time
memory.
could tell the difference between those bones and human bones.
Right.
And the adaptation, the Jeremy Brett version, solved that issue by actually showing a skull and then adding a scene with Holmes in disguise talking with a homeless man whose friend had disappeared. Who was a sailor who disappeared and had gone up to the house to supposedly get a handout and never returned.
Yeah.
So that supplies an explanation. This is the Jeremy Brett version of the adaptation of the story. Okay, so that I thought there's one case where the Brett version has improved on the original story.
Yeah.
Then also the young man McFarland said that it was so late that rather than going home, he went to an inn. Well, his home was 4 miles away from Norwood's house. I think he could probably have gone there.
Yeah, you could have made that, all right.
Okay, and then another thought that occurs to me, instead of this elaborate bit with building the hidden room and all that, the guy could have just sneaked away and hid out somewhere else. And then they would never have uncovered the fact that he was still alive. So that's a
Very
basic
good.
flaw. I mean, he went to a whole lot of trouble when he could simply just not been there.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Okay, about the fingerprint aspect. that Noah's story, of course, is published in 1903. Mark Twain wrote a story, Pudd'nhead Wilson, in 1894, that hinges at the end on fingerprints to identify a person. And so that's an even earlier, but the problem is that he has the story set in 1854. And they
Never know.
they didn't know it about at that point, so that kind of makes it shaky, but obviously this was a new thing at that point, so.
Yeah.
It was becoming well known, so it wasn't just Doyle and Sherlock and Lestrade, or Lestrade.
Ah,
And
but
yeah, and also then, of course, let's see, I brought a little show and tell. We gotta wait till now because it's relevant at this point. Of course, here's Pudd'nhead Wilson, there's an addition to that, Mark Twain.
Okay.
R. Austin Freeman, who wrote the Dr. Thorndike mysteries, his first one was The Red Thumbprint, published in 1907. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Published in 1907, in which he demonstrated that thumbprints could be falsified, could be manufactured, so that if you had to verify, you had to have more than one source of information about a given thumbprint. And that seemed to be innovative at the time, but of course, Doyle was ahead of him about 3 years on that. So, but I recommend the Thorndike stories also, especially the short stories. The novels are good, but the short stories are really even better. As he was the first scientific detective. So, okay.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
I want to thank Tom again for a great presentation. That's a lot of work. It's wonderful stuff. We've got some great folks working for us here. Now,
The other open item, whatever happened to the engineer's thumb?
oh, yeah, there you go. Who knows?
Maybe Old Acre had it.
As we come to a close, we always ask our friend Sandy Cozen, Esmeralda on the Welcome Homes, to bring us a limerick about the story. Go ahead, my dear.
Okay. McFarland's
Unmute.
situation.
You're muted.
I thought I unmuted
Yep.
myself.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. McFarland's situation was dire until Holmes fixed it all with a fire. Revenge for the past had burgeoned at last. It seemed the old man was a liar. The end.
Oh, thank you. Just a reminder that next month, Kathy Peck will bring us, what's the story?
Is it called the color?
Yeah, the color man, yeah. Retired color man.
Yeah.
That'll be great. We're glad to have the Norwood builder here today to be here for present for his story. And everyone, Billy, we're glad you made it today too.
I will not make it next month, I don't think, but
Yeah,
I hope
have a
I'll
new
be
need.
back in October, because Dean, you're studying already. See?
Could we
And,
have the date, please?
Have the name
The date
Of the next meeting?
of the next
Let's see
meeting.
on it.
21st of September. Yeah,
No, we
Thank you.
September the 20th.
okay, and everyone remember the voucher con party at the TGI Friday. I'll send out notes on that. I'll send some more. But that's coming up in a week or so.
Yeah.
And let's have a nice hand for Jeff Stewart, who does this wonderful. Putting us on the way. Thank you, Jeff.
We're dismissed.
That's it.
The end.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.